Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Wednesday webinar. Today, we are joined with Joyce Holoboff and her webinar, Teaching Recorders and Loving It. We're very excited to get recorder season going. So why don't you go ahead, Joyce, take us away.
Okay, thanks so much, Danae. And thanks to everyone who's out there and joining us. I really appreciate it. We were just talking about how January is recorder season. So here we go. My name's, as Danae said, is Joyce Holoboff. I teach in Wolf Creek School Division, which is in Alberta, in Canada. In fact, it's about 20 minutes, where I teach is in the town of Black Falls, about 20 minutes north of where the Musicplay offices are located. So I'm going to jump right in because I have so much to tell you about today. And I am notorious for having too much information and not getting through it. So I'm probably going to talk really fast, but I'm going to try and share as much as I can with you in the time that we have. So my hope for today is that I give you lots of hints for beginning your recorder students, because to me, that's the secret to making it joyful and making it a wonderful experience for you and your students. I'll share some of the classroom management things that I do in my classes, and hopefully a few ideas to take you beyond the beginning levels as well. So I'm going to jump right in. So why play recorders? Well, if you're here, I'm assuming you're probably kind of already sold on the idea, but if you need to sell others on the idea, there are a couple of great posters within Musicplay that really highlight why teaching recorder is important. My parent letter that I sent home is going to be attached with the handout. And this is the poster that I include with my letter. So these are all of the reasons why recorder playing is such a great thing. All of these things are important, but I love the hand-eye coordination and the fact that we're going to reinforce note reading and all those things. This poster number 2 is a more recent addition to the Musicplay posters. This one is just a little more less wordy. Same ideas, just a little less wordy in it. So there's a couple of posters for you if you need to explain to parents why this is an important thing to do. So it's economical. But I always tell my parents, please do not buy your recorders from the dollar store. They are just not very good quality. And for a few dollars more, you can get one that's a really good quality. It feels like a real instrument because it is a real instrument. Recorders have been around since the mid 20th century. It is a real instrument. And if you want to show your students a great example of the wonder that is playing recorder, check out this lovely young woman. Her name is lucyhorsch.com. And she is a recorder virtuoso, beautiful young lady from Holland. And just play 1 or 2 clips from her website. She is amazing. And it will show the students that, oh yeah, recorder is a real instrument. Recorder can be combined with so many of our other classroom instruments, like our singing voices and our Orff instruments and boomwhackers and our non-pitch percussion. It's just a great addition to our classroom instruments. And it's in the same range as our elementary voices. This is a great opportunity to introduce and enhance your rhythm reading and your note reading and hand-eye coordination, which is important at all levels. And I am also a middle school band teacher. So it is going to get those kids ready for middle school band too, which is what I'm all about. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the economy of playing a recorder. I like these handle recorders that are available in the Musicplay store. Now, you can get really good recorders from other places as well. Yamaha makes a great recorder. Aulos, this is a Yamaha recorder right here. Aulos, A-U-L-O-S, makes a great recorder. So does Suzuki. But I'll tell you, I've been using these handle recorders for quite a while now, and I really love them for several reasons. They are just 2 parts, which I really love. Less for kids to take off and fool around with, less for things to go wrong. I also love the two parts because they can't take the lower joint and move it around and potentially play with the wrong hand on top. So as you can see, you could do that with this Yamaha recorder. I could take this bottom joint and turn it, which you definitely don't want. I'm going to talk more about left hand on top in a minute. These recorders from Musicplay come in this lovely case for $6, including in Canada, we have this thing called GST, which is a goods and services tax. So $6, including GST, if you order more than 20. I mean, I tell the kids, you can hardly get a Starbucks specialty coffee for $6 in Canada anymore. So this is a good deal. And of course, they get to keep it because they've paid for it. So they're very economical. Within the Musicplay store as well, you can get books to go along with those recorders. And last time I bought the books, if you paired it with the recorder, it was $10. So again, excellent deal. Now, when you go to shop for your recorders, you might see German versus Baroque. So what's the difference? Baroque was the original recorder. When you play a Baroque style of recorder, the only difference is the note F. So here's low C or middle C if you're a piano player. Here's D, here's E. On a Baroque recorder, you have to play F like this, which is called a forked F. It's not fun if you are a young person. That's really difficult to do. So when you play a German recorder, F is much more logical. And these Handel recorders, you can get the Baroque Handel recorders as well. The German recorders go C, D, E, F, G, much more user-friendly. Now, Baroque might be a little bit more in tune. So if you are a perfect person with perfect pitch, you might need to go for the Baroque recorders. But lucky for me, I don't have perfect pitch, so I can handle the German recorders. And as far as I'm concerned, they sound just fine. So I always go with German. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in and talk about some of the things that I think you need to have happen in your classroom to make you a happy recorder teacher. All right, my number one most important rule, which we have for all our instruments, is play when you are asked. If you play before I say, then I will take your instrument away. And usually with the recorders, they are so excited to play them. If you take one away once, it might be enough. Some people like to do this. If the person's playing when they're not supposed to be, they take the top off the recorder and just have them do the fingers with the bottom. But I found that didn't work for me. I found when I did that with the kids, they're trying to blow this way, or they put their mouth over and blow like this. So I don't do that. I take it away and I give them a pencil, and they have to practice the fingers on the pencil instead. It's not nearly as appealing. So hopefully that won't happen. So that's my number one and really most important rule in the music room. But for everything you do, whether it's recorders or cups or scarves or balls, whatever you're doing, or any kind of instrument, have a resting position. My resting position for recorders is two hands like this and in your lap. That way, when you have a resting position, you can ask them to put it in resting position so that you can give instructions. You have to have that in place. Some people like to have resting, oh, sorry, I've twisted my recorder around. Some people like to have resting position here on their chins. That I call my practice position. So this is resting in our laps, two hands on top. This is practice. You're probably going to have a lot of kids who have the same kind of looking recorders. So get your names on the cases on the first day. After that, you'll have time for labeling the actual instrument. I'm just going to talk briefly about that. Of course, this is not rocket science. We're putting a label on something. But ever since I started teaching, and I am in my 32nd year, I had this engraver in my classroom. And I use this to engrave the kids' names in the recorder. That way it doesn't rub off, it doesn't come off, it doesn't peel off. It's always there. And you'll notice in my recorder letter, I tell the parents that I'm going to do this.
Hi, Joyce. Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you be able to shift your camera down just slightly? Some people are saying they're having a
Absolutely.
little
Sorry.
trouble seeing. Beautiful. Thank
That
you.
better? Yes. And if
That's
you need me to
awesome.
show
Thanks.
anything again, please let me know.
For sure. Um, I think we're good.
Okay.
So please
All right.
continue. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks so much. All right. So, and of course, like any good teaching, the more we can play and the less we can talk, the more effective we're going to be. I'm going to talk a little bit more later about sending instruments home. Be careful before you do that. Be careful what you wish for. All right. So when we play the recorder, the left hand goes on top. This is non-negotiable. Unless, of course, the child has some physical reason why they can't play with their left hand on top. But I think in my whole teaching career, I've had maybe 2 of those. Okay, so the left hand has to go on the top, and it's not just an arbitrary thing. There are some really important reasons for that. Well, number one, because that's the way that the recorder is built. Okay, so when we have our left hand on top, and our fingers come down to cover these lower holes, our pinky is going to be able to cover that hole right there. If I put my other hand on top, no way, Jose. Okay. But even more importantly than that, if you're a woodwind player, even if you're not, it's important for you to know flute players play like this with their left hand on top. Clarinet players play with their left hand on top. Saxophone players play with their left hand on top. So it's setting them up for all those other woodwind instruments to come. On the very first day that I know that we're going to play recorders, when my kids are coming into the music room, I have my hand stamp ready. As they come in the door, I put a stamp on their left hand. I know that I'm opposite of you right now, but this is my left. So a stamp goes on their left hand. I don't tell them why. It's a little bit of mystery when they come into the music room. Then when we get started with recorders, they'll figure out that, oh, that's the hand that's going to go on top. So I like to use a hand stamp. Other people use scrunchies or plastic bracelets. Some people, you can just write an L on the left hand, whatever you need to do. But make sure that there's some differentiation. I neglected to say, I start my students in grade 3. My teaching assignment is I teach at an elementary school that is a pre-K to grade 3 school. So I teach grade 1, 2, 3 music at that school. So I start my recorders in grade 3. We have a separate school in our community, which is a 4, 5, 6 school, and they do take their recorders with them when they go to that school and they continue. But I start in grade 3 because I love teaching recorders, and the teacher at the next school, we made an arrangement where I could start teaching them in grade 3. Why did I want to tell you that? Can't remember now, but I just wanted to let you know that I teach them in grade 3 as well. When you're looking for images of recorder players, be careful what you look for. I found this one when I was looking for recorder images. They have the wrong hand on top and they've got fingers that look like this. Now, the very first day, if you see a kid playing like this, don't stress. But if we're getting on to playing, other notes and they've still got fingers behind, start to remind them that we want to have our fingers above the holes because that's so much more efficient. If your fingers are behind, oh my goodness, look at how hard you're having to work to get them to cover those holes. So we want them to have them on, hovering over the top of the holes. All right, so yeah, these folded fingers, watch out for that as well. I'm going to give you an idea of what the first day in my room looks like when it's recorder day. I've already talked about the hand stamp on the left hand. The second thing that happens is we're going to sit down now that we've got our hand stamp, and I'm going to say the word recorder means gentle wind. Now, does the word recorder mean gentle wind? Well, somebody told me this a long time ago, and it's just stuck with me because it works. I don't think the word recorder actually means gentle wind because I've actually taken a little bit of time to look and see if it does. But I use that mantra in my class because it works. So We say that 2 or 3 times with our super gentle voice, just like I just did. The word recorder means gentle wind. We usually start every class with that little mantra. And it gets them thinking of what is a gentle wind? Okay, so what is a gentle wind? You're going to come up with whatever visual works for you. But the visual that has always worked for me is I tell my students, you are 1 year old. Hold up your 1 year old birthday candle. Now, you're 1 year old. You can't blow out this candle. You don't have that much air, but you might be able to blow it and make the flame move back and forth. So let's blow and move the flame. So you don't need very much air for that. And then I say, okay, let's try and blow it out. That's the wrong amount of air. So I show them the gentle wind making the flame dance with B. And then I'll show them the other into my recorder. And I'll warn them they might want to cover their ears because it's not going to be pretty. So that's the way I talk about gentle wind. And we won't do that just on the first day. We'll start the very many of our first classes remembering about that gentle wind. After we've talked about that gentle wind, and still, even before we get our recorders, I'm going to add do. So I'm saying it a little bit loud, but that's our tonguing. So if you're a wind player, you know that tonguing is what you do inside your mouth to separate the notes. So if I want to play more than one B, I have to go like this inside my mouth. And it's not that loud once it's inside your mouth, but it sounds like this. So now, when I do that with my gentle wind, and when I'm introducing this on the first day, I'm saying to the kids, I'm going to say this a little bit loudly, but here's what we're going to do next. We're going to go, and then we all try that with a super gentle voice. So now I'm going to make it even more gentle. And we practice a little bit of that before we get our instruments. Now, for recorders, I like the syllable do just because it's a little bit softer and more gentle. If you are a wind player, you probably are more familiar with using to as your tonguing, just because it gives a little bit more crispness to the sound. But for my purposes, I like do on the recorder. Okay, then we get our instruments. We take our instruments out of the cases. I find the cases are a distraction. So we zip up our cases and we put them behind our backs. My students sit on the floor. If your students sit on chairs, put them underneath the chairs, but get those cases out of the way so that they're not distracted by them. Then we're going to practice that resting position. Then we're going to talk about putting our left hand at the top. Now here's the tricky thing. When I'm looking at my students, I'm not able to mirror them because my left hand is over here and their left hand is over here. So on the very first day, I'm going to turn around when I'm first showing them how to play the recorder. I've got my recorder, I'm holding it up in the air so they can see the hole behind. All they can see is one hole at the back. Now we're going to take our left hand where we've got our hand stamp or something to remind us. Oh, and it also makes an L. And we're going to take that and thumb, and we're going to put it straight out from that hole. And we're going to press down nice and firmly. Then we're going to take a look. Now I can turn around. Take a look where your pointer finger is going to go. And we're going to take that pointer finger and we're going to cover the very top hole with it. We're going to press nice and firmly, but now we're going to use our gentle wind. And of course, it would be my turn and their turn so that I can always give them that good example of what we're shooting for. Of course, it's not going to sound like that when they try it on the first day, but it's a beginning. All right. So that's what I mean by backs to the students and showing your thumb placement. Then I have them have a look. Okay, this is their very first day with these instruments. They have to know what it kind of looks like and what it kind of feels like. Okay, so and then once we've played a couple of B's, then we're going to try adding that do tonguing. I have 40-minute classes. That's probably all I'm going to get to on the first day because we have to get names on cases. So that's kind of the first day. When I come back at the second day, we're going to have some helpers who are handing out the recorders. We are going to start by saying, well, we're going to start with our recorders in resting position and our cases zipped up and behind our backs. And we're going to say the word recorder means gentle wind. We're always going to start like that. All right. And then probably on the second day, I'll be able to introduce the first song, which I'm going to tell you about later. So again, I'm a big believer in the importance of the first sounds and the first days. So I like the gentle wind. I use the birthday candle, but use whatever visual works for you and your students. Some people like the idea of warm air. So blow some warm air into your hand. Denise always liked the visual of bubbles. Now I'll warn you, I will show my kids the bubbles on the third or fourth day too, because bubbles are a great visual, right? If you blow gently, you're going to make some beautiful bubbles. If you don't blow gently, if you blow too hard, you don't get very many bubbles. So bubbles are a great visual. I will just warn you, if you use the bubbles, you will have to go around and make sure that everybody gets to see the bubbles and gets to pop out some bubbles. So it'll take you a few extra minutes just to keep everybody happy with the bubbles. But it works. It's a great visual. Adding that tonguing from the very first note. So the tonguing is the do. At the beginning, don't worry if you see this on the first few days. Okay. They're not tonguing yet. They're starting each sound with air. There's a lot to think about when you're learning recorders. Okay, you're figuring out how much air to blow. You're figuring out where to put your fingers. You're figuring out how not to make it sound really super loud. So I don't worry about the tonguing at the beginning, but after a couple of weeks, this is hooing. This is playing like an owl when we're starting it with our air. So then we're going to have some reminders about, if we have to, we can go through a whole song and just say it with do, just to practice that tonguing. When I'm in my recorder classes, I try and speak quite softly, just again, to give that idea of everything is gentle. We don't want anything to be harsh, especially our wind. I have found that some of the Musicplay animated videos are quite loud. So if you find that, turn them down. Doesn't matter what accompaniment you're using, turn it down the lowest that you can get away with. Because if your accompaniment sounds loud, the students are going to play louder so that they can hear themselves above it. And again, overblowing is one of the reasons that we're not going to sound good. All right. I'm going to show you this warm-up really quickly. This is not a first day activity. The recorder warm-up is something that you might want to try at the beginning of your classes after they really know B, A, and G. But this is a little something that you can find in Musicplay, and it's an opportunity for them just to practice playing each note with a nice long tone. It shows you the fingerings for each note, and it's going all the way down. So we're practicing covering each of those holes and getting them covered. And here on the note F, you can see this is the German fingering for F, and this is the Baroque fingering for F. So that's why there are two of those. So that's the recorder warm-up. I really like the recorder warm-up as well because I'm a band student, or a band teacher rather, also a student. I play trombone in a community band. And long tones, if you're a wind player, you know that long tones are the key to playing beautiful tones. All right, so now I'm going to jump into the songs that I use in teaching recorders. I really like Recorder Kit 1 in Musicplay. So I'm going to take you in there and show you that as well. So if you're looking for where the recorders are, it's under Instruments, Recorder, and then here are all of the offerings within Musicplay for recorder. And I love Recorder Kit 1. There is more in here than I ever get to. If you go into Introduction to the Recorder, especially if you're new at this teaching this recorder game. There are all sorts of great videos in here. I'm going to talk about this rap in a moment. Denise made this rap a few years ago, and it's quite great. But I want to show you all of these introductory videos that are in Recorder Kit 1. So if you are unsure about where to begin with teaching the recorder, here are videos to explain it all to your students. How the notes are named, counting music, a little bit of history of the recorder, getting started on the recorder. There's Denise demonstrating her bubble blowing and making a sound, rhythm reading, counting music, naming notes. So it's all there. There's that warm up again. And that is all within Recorder Kit 1 in the Intro to Recorder. This little recorder wrap, I'm going to go back to my slide here. This is a great little wrap. I will start introducing this probably in about the 4th music class. And I go like this. Recorders in position. This is not a hard decision. This is rest. So Denise's initial rap says this is listen, which you can also use, but I have my students go, this is rest. We put it in resting position. This is practice. So this is where we're going to practice our fingers without making any sound. This is play with exactness. Left hand at the top and right hand down below. Fingers weight above the holes until it's time to go. That's all I use of the recorder, or of the rap, rather. It does go on beyond that. So you can listen, you can watch the video and listen to it. This next part, connect the notes to make a nice legato tone. Don't overblow and you won't make your teacher moan. Well, connecting the dots and making a nice legato tone is a really important part of recorder playing. But some teachers commented last year, especially upper elementary teachers, when they used it with their classes, some students found this make your teacher moan part a little bit, I don't know what the word is. It threw them off, let me put it that way. So if you're going to try this, use this recorder wrap, maybe have a listen to it first and decide how much of it you want to use with your students. I want to show you this little recorder finger fun too. This is just no recorders in your hand, high hand-eye coordination practice. So you're showing how to, you're doing the fingers, moving your fingers up and down to play B with this really cute little music. So I'm just going to show you a quick snippet of this. And it goes on to do the same thing with A, and then it does B and A together, and then it goes on to do G. But it's just a great little finger practice, and it's super cute and super fun. Okay, back to Recorder Kit 1. Sorry, I'm going to go back up to here. So that is everything that is just within Introduction to the Recorder. Note toss. I would really encourage you to look at this game if you're looking at a fun game to reinforce your recorder fingerings. I will show you that later if I have time. There are certificates and mad minutes if you want to use those with your students, but I want to get into the song progression. So the very first, I use Recorder Kit 1, and I use songs 1 through 8 in that order without fail. So song number 1 is just B. I want to show you all of the choices that you have in terms of accompaniments to go along with these songs as well. I love these ones. These are called the animated accompaniments. And these are the ones that I have found to be a little bit loud. So I always turn the volume down as much as I can. But I love these because it shows the recorder. It shows you what your left thumb is supposed to be doing and your pointer finger. It shows you that the right hand is not doing anything right now. It shows you the notes on the staff in proper notation, but it has these little kids' notes. So for my really young students, this is a nice little visual reminder. Plus, the highlighted note tells you where you're supposed to be in the music. So I'm just going to play you a teeny bit of this. and it's quite slow, which I find works really well at the beginning. But if you look under each recorder song, you're going to see a whole bunch of choices for accompaniment as well. Play along is kind of the original. If you've been using Musicplay for a while, this is the original just B. There will not be any highlighting. It's just an accompaniment. It shows you what B is, it shows you the fingering, and it gives you accompaniment to play along with the recorder. So that's a different version of just B. Note highlights. This time you're going to have the same thing as the one I just did, only now there's going to be a little highlighter. There's going to be a little highlighter. All right, so that's note highlights. There are also all sorts of other videos. There's an introduction to B video if you need that. Now, these ones have recently been updated. So here's a different version. Here's a just B slide that has 2 recorder accompaniments with it, or with the recorders playing. So when it says recorder or recorder 2, you're going to hear the recorder playing along with it. But if you want an accompaniment with absolutely no recorder playing along, you can choose that one as well. So there are a lot of choices in terms of your accompaniment. Now, let me talk quickly about play it on the glockenspiel. If you absolutely have a student for whatever reason who can't blow into recorder, this might be an option for them. They can play online. They can play a real glockenspiel for that matter, or they can play online. So I can just click on this note and play along. There's also keyboard controls. So if I play number 7, it's going to play. So you could have a student do that if you needed an alternative for them. So that's what the play it on the glockenspiel is. And then, of course, there's all sorts of supporting resources. So again, this is just the very first song in Recorder Kit 1, and that's everything that's in it. So I'm going to quickly roll through the next 8 songs. Just A, of course, is pretty self-explanatory. And again, we've got our little recorder to show us there. Then we're going to put A and B together in A and B blues. And I love that we're going to get different styles of music, like blues style as well. Then we're going to introduce G. Now, by the time we get to G, this is where I'm going to get concerned about where my right hand placement is. And you might have noticed that I've got this dot on the back of my recorder. Why do we, well, we always want to be concerned about right hand placement because eventually we're going to play E. The very first few days, I am not going to be worried about where their right hand is. We have enough other things to think about. But by the time we get around to playing G, it is important to think about where your right thumb is going to go. Here's why. This finger is the weakest of all the fingers. I was told by my teacher that these two share a tendon. So the ring finger is very weak on its own. So now when we play G, we are going to try and press this down. But if we don't have anything to help us, it is really hard to get that hole covered. So I take these stationary dots that you can get at any stationery store or any dollar store. And I put one of these dots on the back of everybody's recorders, about in the middle of the recorder. And then I take a piece of transparent tape and I cover it with tape. If you don't cover it with tape, they're going to fall off. And every day you're going to have at least 2 kids coming to you and saying that their dot fell off. So now we know where our right thumb has to go. Now there are thumb rests that you can buy. I don't know if they work on these handle recorders, but I know that you can buy thumb rests that kind of snap on for Aulos recorders, and they probably fit Suzuki recorders as well. They're not super expensive. So that option is available to you, but this has always worked really well for me. Now I've got my thumb here, and when I use a little bit of pressure from behind with my thumb, and I press down with my G, it is so much easier to press that G down. So make sure by the time they're playing G that you've got their right thumb where you want it in the middle of the recorder. All right, so that's my little thumb lecture on G. All right, now we're going to play G and A blues, very similar to A and B blues. And then we're going to play Sidestep. This is the first song where we're going to put all of the notes together. Sidestep is one of my favorite songs in the universe. I think it should be nominated for a Grammy as best recorder song ever, because here's what you do to play Sidestep. It's half notes. We're going to go super slow. We're going to go G, A, B, A, G, A, B. So all we're doing is lifting fingers and putting them back on. It's just a brilliant song. So that's Sidestep. We are going to play Au clair de la lune because it's a beautiful little French song with B, A, and G. And then we are at hot cross buns. And I love it when my students get to hot cross buns because they think they've made it, right? We are at the pinnacle of recorder playing. And then I have to break it to them. Well, we're not done. There's more to learn. But they love playing hot cross buns. This version of hot cross buns has a variation, and it has a second variation where you can have students do their own improvising or creating. I tend not to do that because I want to move on to the next one, but it's an option available to you. After hot cross buns, we're going to start learning about E. So we're going to play Starlight, which is a song that we've done in grade 1 and in grade 2. Now, beyond that, I'm going to take you back to the Recorder 1 list so that I can show you kind of the songs that I pick and choose. There are too many songs to choose from. So that's why I start picking and choosing. I will always play Starlight. I love Kagome. It's the beautiful Japanese cherry blossom song, but it is too tricky for my grade 3s. There are slurs on 8th notes. And so as much as I would love to play it, I skip that one. I tend to do BAGE blues. I always do either Little Tommy Tittlemouse or Doggy Doggy because those songs are ones that we've done in grade 1 and 2. And I always do Skin and Bones. Now, Skin and Bones is a great song. If you don't know it, please learn it at some point because it's a great song in a minor key, an old song that we've used as a teaching song forever and ever. But it has so many wonderful things for recorder players. It's in 3/4 time. It has this great big slur. So we're going to talk about how we play that. It has a tied note. So it just has so many things. And here's a wonderful way to teach Skin and Bones. If you know this song, sorry, I'm moving my screen around a little bit. We're going to sing the first line and play the second line on our recorders like this. Once an old woman, all skin and bones. She lived down by the old graveyard. There's about 5 more verses after that. So you just sing the first line and then you play that. So we have to talk about how we tongue this first note. And then in order to make it sound like we're singing, ooh, we don't tongue any of these other notes. So that's how we make this nice big slur. So Skin and Bones is an absolute must in my books. Okay, so that's Skin and Bones. That will be the end of my E songs. Then I'm going to go on and introduce D with Frog in the Middle, Country Swing, maybe one other song. And then we're going to introduce High C using See You in Canada, because we're in Canada. How can you resist that song? I always do Hush Little Baby. And by this point, we've probably been playing recorders for 2 or 3 months. So then I'm going to start thinking about what we might want to finish. And it changes every year, depending on the dynamics of my students, depending on the buy-in. If they're really into it, then we might finish off with Ode to Joy. Maybe we'll even go on to Jingle Bells, because of course they love playing songs that they're familiar with. So that is kind of my basic plan. I've talked to you about the playback choices. Now, squeaking recorders. There's only 2 reasons for squeaks, and my students learn this right away. You need to have firm, flat fingers. not round pointy fingers. So we want to play with our fingerprints. And on the very first, or at the most second day, when we're playing B, I'm going to say to students, press firmly, press firmly. Now, take your fingers away. Do you have some recorder warts? Are the recorder warts going to last forever? Well, no, but if you've got recorder warts, so those little indentations on your fingers, that means that you're getting the holes covered. So recorder warts are a good thing. And of course, we talk about the fact that they won't last, but you know, recorder warts are kind of a badge of honor in my class. All right. So, I think I've talked about everything else on this page because I've talked about the colored dot. These are some general posters that I show in my classroom. That's a reminder about squeaks. I have had these visual posters about how we play B, A, and G forever. If you want some posters to show you, to post that have each individual note and shows you the recorder fingering, they are available in the Musicplay Musicplay store. It's a $20 package. So it has a poster for each recorder note, nice big poster for you to put up on your walls. Plus it's got a bunch of extra activities within it as well. Now, I start my kids in grade 3. So I've got kids with huge hands and I've got some kids with teeny weeny hands. So for the kids who are having trouble with finger placement, here's a couple of suggestions. These paper reinforcements that you would use for lined paper when it starts to rip. You could take one of these and put it on the hole, over top of the hole, and that might be just enough for them to feel where that hole is. Something that gives you a little bit more texture is these corn cushions that, again, I found these at Dollar Tree. So take one of these. If they're having trouble figuring out and getting their finger over the hole, put one of those over the hole, and that might just give them a little something more to feel for. I've also been known, especially if they're having trouble getting these holes covered and the thumb at the back, I'll take some tape and put it over the hole at the back. It doesn't mean they don't have to still try and cover it with their finger, but it just gives them the opportunity to be more successful. So, you know, as music teachers, you know, you're going to do whatever it takes to help your kids be successful. Now, of course, one of the big benefits of playing recorder is that we are going to teach and reinforce note reading. So many ways to do this. I'm doing this right now because we haven't got our recorders yet. We started back to school last week. I need at least 2 weeks for everybody to order a recorder and for me to actually go and get the recorders. So in the meantime, we're learning how to read the notes. Of course, you can do all of the mnemonics for the notes on the line. Every good boy does fine. And if you don't know about using a hand staff, this is the greatest little reinforcement ever. I have a floor staff, which is not pretty. I think it's on my next slide here. So this is sitting on my floor right now. I'm going to say it's about 6 feet by 8 feet. And I just take electrical tape and I make a staff. This is line 1. This is line 5. What we've been doing for the last couple of classes, and again, remember, this is grade 3, is we start by jumping to the line numbers. I usually have 2 lines of students that are equal. So we got 2 people here at the front, and I say line 3, and they jump to line 3. And then the person who gets their feet in the middle of the line 3 first is the winner. Then next progression from that is we talk about the every good boy does fine, or every girl buys diamonds Friday. And then we jump to the letter names on the staff as well. Then we repeat that same process for the space notes as well. So it's a super fun and engaging way for them to learn some note names. And like I say, it's not pretty, but it works. Now, of course, there's lots of other ways that you can do that too. Note Toss, I've already mentioned, is an online game within Musicplay, and you must check out Coconut Chaos. If you have not ever seen Coconut Chaos, go into Musicplay and check it out. It is the cutest little game for learning and reinforcing note reading. So please check that out. And if you are a subscriber to Musicplay, which I'm assuming most of you are because you're here, I hope you know that you can generate a student code. So if you don't want to play Coconut Chaos as a whole class on your projector and you've got access to Chromebooks or iPads, students can play it on their own, or you can have them play it at home as well. And of course, there's a million notes spellers and note name stories out there. If you're looking for other note name ideas in Musicplay, there's note name memory, there are pop quizzes for note naming, there's a trivia wheel for note naming. So there's just all sorts of ways to teach note reading and make it fun at the same time. All right, so adaptations. Yes, we are going to run into students who can't play a recorder for whatever reason. I'm not sure
Joyce,
that
this is your 5 minutes heads up.
Thank you so much. Okay. And of course, I think the very first thing is every child with special needs is going to be different. So you're going to consult with the teacher and their parents. And if you have a learning consultant within your school, I would first go to all of them and see what the best course of action is. I'm going to show you a couple of choices here. If they can't play recorder at all, then maybe they play the glockenspiel or an Orff instrument, or they play rhythms on non-pitched percussion. This pre-quarter is something that I have found through a Canadian music company we have called Empire Music. And I also found it, I think, on Long and McQuaid, which is another of our music suppliers. So it might be a possibility for you. I have a couple of these. I think I've only ever had to use them with one student. But as you can see, it's got the notes it's smaller and the note holes are raised. So it's easier to see them. Now, doesn't sound as good as a recorder. I'll play you a little bit. But it's relatively in tune. If you are as old as me, we played a tonette when I was in elementary school, and this looks just like a tonette. Anyways, I digress. So that's a pre-quarter. The Nouveau recorders, I bought one of these 2 or 3 years ago. These are available on Amazon. I do not think that I paid $44. So they have gone up in price, I'm quite sure. But if you really have a special needs student who you think might be able to benefit from this, it has silicone pads that cover the holes. It does have a thumb rest on the back too. Hopefully you can see that on the side there. So it just makes it a little easier for the students to cover the holes. So that's a Nouveau recorder. If you had a special needs student, maybe there would be some funding to pay for one of those as well. Now, I have never used these things called a mute flute, but I'm going to make you know about them. They're little things that you put on the mouthpiece part of the recorder that apparently makes it sound softer. They are quite pricey if you want to look at them on Amazon. I have never used a melodica, although other people have mentioned it to me. A melodica is like a keyboard that you blow into. I'm not sure whether that might be a useful adaptation, but I'm throwing it out there. And of course, you probably all have the noise headphones for your kids who are noise sensitive. You might want to bring those for some of your recorder kids who are sensitive. Sometimes I just have the students sit more towards the back of the room too, if they are really a little bit sensitive, because recorder playing in the beginning is not going to be pretty, but it does get beautiful really quickly if you keep it gentle. All right, so challenge activities. Please be sure to check out alto and or kit 2 for alto and tenor recorder. So recorder kit 2, I'm going to get out of click 1 and go to, or kit 1 and go to kit 2. In kit 2, there are all sorts of more upper level arrangements. So I want to show you, for example, Blueberry Hill. This is a great little 4-piece recorder piece. So it uses those notes. So it's got a nice accompaniment. You could play it just with 2 parts, with 2 sopranos. If you wanted to introduce alto recorder, I have a colleague who has a set of alto recorders for her class. And she does this in about grade 5 or 6, I think, introduces them to alto, which is a great challenge if your kids are into it. But alto does have a completely different fingering system. So for example, this is G on soprano, but it is a C on alto recorder. So it's a great challenge. But here's a great thing I wanted to make sure you knew about. This TR alto stands for transposed alto. That means you can play an alto recorder, but you can use soprano recorder fingerings. And so you can play this recorder with the soprano fingerings, and it's going to sound great in this arrangement. So those are some of the things that are available in Recorder Kit too. Tenor recorders are awesome, but and this is an ancient one, as you can see, that I've had in my school. But you need to have really kids with really good hand span, because for me, tenor is about as wide as I can spread. So if you can do tenor with your students, that's amazing. And tenor is the same fingerings as soprano. All right. Blues cats and jazz cats are also available within Musicplay. These are great arrangements for your students. Sorry, I'm just going to go back so that I can find it. I'm going to go back into Recorder here, and I'm going to take you into Blues Cats. These were written by Brad Keller and Bonnie Rossa. And I'm just going to show you the first one here called Cat's Meow. Now it just uses B, A, and G, but take a look at this music. All right, so this is not for your beginning rhythm readers because we've got eighth to dotted quarters, we've got some syncopation, but for your upper elementary kids, this is awesome rhythm reading and awesome arrangements of some blues and jazz type playing with 3 notes that they already know. So take a look at those as well. There are holiday songs for the recorder, which are awesome if you would like to do any kind of a Christmas program and play some recorders in it. Musicplay has lots of those as well. And I would encourage you for sure, if you are interested in recorder baseball. So if I go back to that recorder again, make sure I didn't miss telling you about anything. Oh, I haven't talked about poison recorder. Okay, recorder baseball. I'll talk about this first.
Sorry to interrupt, Joyce.
Yep.
We are at 5:22.
Okay, so
and I do have a couple questions.
yep. So I'll just tell you briefly about Recorder Baseball. Recorder Baseball, check out a webinar by the creator, Nancy Otto. She did a whole webinar on this great Recorder Baseball program, which you should definitely check out for your upper elementary kids. Okay, I'm ready for questions.
Brilliant. Pardon me. How many lessons of recorder do you do in 3rd grade?
All right, so I'm going to be starting it next week. Fingers crossed that everybody has a recorder. And I'm going to say I see my students twice a week. And generally we will do this. We'll do recorders at least until we'll do February, March, April for sure. So if I think about 2 lessons a week times 4 times 3, that's 24. That's about 26 lessons. So I'm going to say between 25 and 30. But again, base it on how how much your kids are enjoying it and how much you're enjoying it. This needs to be fun for everybody, including you.
All right, perfect. Somebody says, I'm hoping to teach recorder and some ukulele to both the grade 4 and grade 5 groups in our school. Would you suggest doing all of the recorder at once or stagger grade 4s do recorder and 5s do ukulele and then they switch?
Wow, good question. So you're saying the question is, should you alternate, like do 4s do recorder and then 4s do ukulele and 5 does recorder and 5 does ukulele, or have one do one year and one do the other? I think
I
that's the
think it
question.
is, yes.
Yeah,
Grade 4s
okay,
do recorder and 5s do uke at one time and then you switch.
right. Yeah. I would say, I think my preference would be I would do recorders in one grade and I would do ukulele in the other grade. But If there was opportunities, and then, but I would look at opportunities to have them do some kind of joint performance together. Wouldn't that be amazing? But I would tend to, as long, again, and you have to gauge your own class, as long as enjoyment and buy-in is high, I would stick with one for as long as I can, just so that we can make a good progression of skills. That would be my thinking on it. I hope that answers the question.
Brilliant. I think so.
Okay.
Um, do you do all of the notation on the projector slash smartboard, or do you print the music?
Super good question. Okay. I use projector, and then at the near the end of the year, or if we're going to get into recorder martial arts, which I'm sure I really didn't get to, I might give them some printed copies of them. But this is also the book that you can get from Musicplay, and this is that recorder kit one, just in a print form as well. So just wanted to mention that as well. I tend to do things on the projector. It's up to you. If you want your kids to be practicing at home or practicing outside of class time, then you might want to do some printing as well.
All right, perfect. Um, I think this question might be in reference to the print, but what about taking recorders home or out of class practice?
Okay. Number one, I tell my students, not everybody loves recorders as much as we do. So if you are taking it outside of class, the only other place you're playing it is outside, unless you've got permission from your teacher or whoever to play it inside. Because, everybody just doesn't appreciate recorder like we do. Anyways, so they can play at school, they can play it in my music room, or they can play it outside. In terms of taking it home, I tend to not have my students take home because that opens up the whole can of worms about, is it going to get back to school? And that's basically the backpack rule, right? If you're taking it home, it has to get put in your backpack so that it makes it back to school. And if you are having them take home and they don't come back, then make sure you have a bin of some clean recorders in one corner of the room and a bin in the other corner of the room where they go when they're done playing with them. And those two bins will never meet, so that then that you can wash those. Oh, washing recorders. Okay, I got to tell you about this really quickly. I hate recorder cleaning rods because, and I've lost my case right now. Okay, the little cleaning rods that come in the recorders, they don't really do a good job unless you have a little piece of cloth to put in them. Most kids will put the recorder cleaning rod inside and they'll shake it up and down and they'll go, I'm cleaning my recorder. They're really not. The best way to clean the recorder is to put it in the top rack of the dishwasher or wash it like you would wash your dishes in some good soapy water and rinse it and dry it. So I take the cleaning rods out of the recorders before I give them to the students. So my students don't know that they come with cleaning rods, but I use those cleaning rods for all sorts of other interesting things. I use them for sticks. I use them for ribbon practice. And I don't know what I've done with my case because otherwise I would show you. But I don't let those cleaning rods go to waste. They have lots of other useful purposes. I just don't use them for cleaning recorders. So sorry, I digressed there.
Perfect. And I have one last question. Is it okay to teach recorder to grade one? Or I suppose you could say, how early can you start?
Yeah, I would say no on grade one. Just because there's a lot, as I mentioned, there's a lot of skills involved in playing the recorder. This whole business of just the hand-eye coordination, that's huge. We have grade ones who can hardly hold a pencil or cut with scissors, right? So managing to lift and put down one or two fingers at a time, for going from G to B, that's a big, big thing. Plus, I think the younger you get, I wouldn't do it before grade three, and I teach grade one and two. The younger that you get, the smaller the hands are going to be. And I think you're just going to get more frustration. And I think the whole idea of the gentle wind is, again, it's going to be harder for your younger students to grasp that concept.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
All
That
right.
is all of our questions.
All right.
And we are actually right at that 5:30 mark. So perfect timing.
Fantastic. Well, thanks
All
again,
right.
everyone, for joining me. And my email is on the slides. Email me anytime if you have any questions. Thanks so much.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Joyce. And thanks again, everyone, for joining. We'll be having more of these webinars coming up. Next week, we are having a webinar on neurodivergent learners in music class. So that one will be very interesting, very informative. We'd love to see you there. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see